Hey guys, how's it going, Companion? So, every now and again, in fact, pretty often in fact, I get a bit salty in Hearthstone. Usually it happens playing Arena because some extraordinary, ridiculous type of circumstances line up and I get absolutely owned. And, well, I go a little bit on tilt, but I don't think it affects my play too much. And what happens is, usually when these events take place, they end up on YouTube, and people probably have this skewed view of the game where, you just, always get screwed, and I'm always salty, and all the rest, and all that. And today I thought I'd tell you guys the typical arena, what actually goes down in Hearthstone when you queue up Arena, when you know what you're doing, when you've done it many, 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 many times, like myself. So you draft a deck. If you pick a good class like mage, maybe rogue, maybe paladin, druid, and yeah, the other ones I kind of try to skip, but some of them can do okay as well. You often get a few mediocre cards. The average deck will go maybe 5 or 6 wins, and usually you're dealing with an average deck. The way that I draft, I try to get a good amount of endgame because I know if I have any hope of going past 5, 6, maybe 7 wins, I need a deck that can beat a slow control mage, because if I can't beat a slow control mage, I will not get any wins after that point. To beat a slow control mage, you gotta pick cards like Boulderfist Ogre. If Boulderfist Ogre doesn't come up, you gotta pick cards like Archmage, cards like the Golem, whatever you can do, whatever survives the 3 flame strikes, the 4 flame strikes, and hopefully you have more of these cards than they have fireballs and polymorphs, and hopefully you've drafted enough early game as well. I don't tend to go for the rush decks, and the reason I don't tend to go for the rush decks is because the example is right in front of me. I mean, when I play Arena, after, let's say, 4 or 5 wins, people just do not rush you down. And this isn't just a coincidence, this is a matter of the fact that when you play a deck that just gets all the 2-drops, all the efficient creatures, and all that kind of crap, the zoo of the arena, and you rush your opponent down, yes, you're going to get some pretty spectacular wins. You're going to win turn 5, turn 6, but other times, especially when you start queuing against the slow decks, like the control mages who have a bunch of flame strikes, a bunch of stall cards, freezes, taunts, well, you're going to get destroyed. So I try to draft just enough early game to do well enough to not get run over too frequently by these type of decks. And what usually goes down is I make it to, I think my average is about 7 wins, but that counts, the insane decks that just go automatic, like, 11 plus or 12. So, usually what happens is I get caught a little bit in this mess of noobs. And I call them noobs because they don't play around any cards whatsoever. So they're pretty much eliminating most of the strategy behind the game. They get a 2-drop, they play the 2-drop, they attack the face. They get a 3-drop, they attack the face. They get a 4-drop, they attack the face. They draw some fireballs later on, oh, you're out of luck. All that early game face damage, turns out they just drew the fireball exactly at the right time and you got destroyed. Well, if instead of that fireball on turn 9 they draw, I don't know, like a 3-2 Raptor, well, they're going to lose the game. But this risky type of gameplay that I don't play, that I often fall victim to, ends up on YouTube because it is pretty insane. And it is pretty infuriating to lose to players who visibly play badly, have no strategy at all, and end up beating you, maybe 1 in 3 games because they have no strategy. And by that I mean, they fill the board with like 6 or 7 creatures. They don't play around your flame strike. They don't play around your swipe. And when you don't draw your swipes, when you don't draw your flame strikes, they crush you. And, well, yeah, I call this the jungle. Once you're out of the jungle, you start facing mostly control decks that are dominated by mages, but also some rogue, kind of faster control decks are in there. You have the druid control, you have sometimes shaman control, pally control is pretty big as well, and very rarely you'll queue into something else like a hunter or a warlock that, got a nice set of cards. And these guys are fairly predictable because you know for them to be there, like for a Warlock to be at 10 or 11 wins to face your Control Mage deck, they have to have a lot of aggro creatures. They have to have the Soulfires, they have to have the Doom Guards, they probably have a Legendary. So because of this predictability, it also doesn't really intimidate me very much when I match up against them. But all in all, Arena's pretty much the best thing for me in Hearthstone. Even with the new cards where I find Constructed a lot more appealing, it is kind of the thing that I really want to do when I play Hearthstone. The reason I want to talk about this is because some people get the wrong opinion that Arena's always a mess. Some days, I don't even go below 7 wins. I just go, 12, 2 or 3 times, 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, all the rest. And the average is pretty good. And, you got to try to play through all the random bullshit, all the noobs who zerg you down, all the top decks, all that kind of stuff. And, well, if that stuff is a little testing for me, I can imagine some people get pretty mad at that shit too. And speaking of which, I'd like to present you guys the best example of the most random bullshit that I've ever seen in Arena, which happened today. Enjoy. I've gone 0-3 with like a ridiculous deck. I've gone 1-3 with 3 legendaries. I've gone 1-3 with like the best paladin deck I've ever drafted. Yeah, you get really unlucky sometimes.
Mind if I roll need?
I mean, I got really unlucky against the last paladin. I just drew shitty cards while he drew good cards. Starfire top deck number 2. Okay. I've drawn 4 cards on me. I'm not too far from even, so I should be okay. I have some bad plays as well. The thing is, if you notice your opponent make a bad play, it's usually significantly worse than it actually looks, because you don't know their hand. You don't know, all the little things that could have happened. Force of Nature, Savage Roar, Force of Nature, Bite, Innervate, Innervate, Savage Roar. I lost the game. And if you guys don't think I'm unlucky, that's the reality check. Force of Nature, Savage Roar, Innervate, Bite in Arena.